Hello everyone, my name is Don, the movie reviewer, and today we're going to be talking about Thor Ragnarok. Thor is my least favorite Avenger. I'm not a huge fan of his. He's at the bottom of the Avengers list for me. Hulk, my number one guy, and then Iron Man right underneath him. And as far as Thor's movies are concerned, the first Thor movie, I hate it. It's an atrocity. The beginning of that movie, all the stuff on Asgard and then with the frost giants is amazing, but then once he goes to Earth, it's garbage. So I give the first movie like a D, and then Thor: The Dark World was better than the first Thor movie, but I still didn't like it as much because I thought Malekith, the little dark elf, was a pretty weak villain, and he got his ass kicked by Thor's mom, and then get your ass kicked by his mother, then how do I expect him to go up against Thor, So they really wasted that elf character. But it was better than the first movie, so I give it a higher grade than the first one. I'd give it like a D plus. So this year Marvel hasn't really been doing it for me. In 2017, I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. That movie is garbage. I didn't like it. And then you have Spider-Man Homecoming, which I also didn't like that movie. That movie's garbage as well. So Marvel hasn't been doing it for me this year. And, I'm a Marvel fanboy. But I'm also a fanboy of good movies. And I want Marvel to succeed. I'm not just hating on Marvel because I'm against them or anything and I'm DC or anti whatever. I'm not. I just love good movies. And if they make a good movie, I will enjoy it. Like Doctor Strange, for me, is Marvel's last best Marvel movie. I don't give a damn what nobody says. I love me some Doctor Strange. It's good. And so Thor Ragnarok, since I have a terrible history with Thor, I don't like Thor that much. Let's find out how I feel about this. Here's my review.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh.
And then I went on a journey of self-discovery, where I met you. We're the same, you and I. Just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Yeah, same. Hulk like fire, Thor like water.
Well, kind of both like fire.
But Hulk like raging fire, Thor like smoldering fire.
He's a fighter.
Need to stop her here and now to prevent Ragnarok, the end of everything.
I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death.
Thor returns in his third installment of the Thor series, Thor Ragnarok. This time, Thor has to battle an evil witch named Hela, who is determined to conquer Asgard. During his battle to protect Asgard, Thor ends up getting sidetracked and dumped on an unknown planet, where he reunites with his fellow Avenger, the Hulk. During Thor's quest to get back to Asgard and defeat Hela, Thor recruits the Hulk and some unlikely heroes during his journey. Once this movie started, I said to myself, holy shnikes, man, this movie is absolutely dull and predictable. Once we got past that initial opening, we meet some character who gives some explanation as to what's going to happen to Asgard. Then there's some jokes thrown in, and I was just like, oh, okay, it's kind of funny. I chuckled a little bit, and then it kept happening. I was like, okay. And then we have some really bloated CGI'd action scene where Thor takes on like a gazillion, dozen, quadruple enemies, and it looked really poorly executed. Like, Tycho RTD, I don't think knows how to direct action scenes, because the action scenes in this movie, most of them are pretty bland. However, once we got to the Hulk versus Thor action bits, Thor is my main guy. Those scenes accelerated my excitement, and that's when I felt like the movie was finally getting on track. Everything after the Thor versus Hulk battle was really good. The initial part of the film didn't impress me all that much. I mean, it is a continuation from Thor the Dark World, and, it irons out all the wrinkles from the end of that movie. And then so we get explanations as to what's going on. We meet some interesting characters. And there are a few characters that I did enjoy seeing here. Only negative thing I can say about this is that there are a lot of jokes that are inserted in this movie, and it just keeps happening like every 5 seconds to the point of absurdity. I was really interested in the main story here. I mean, besides the first 10 minutes or so, or I didn't really care and I was just like, okay, this is kind of boring and this is just like the previous Thor movies. Then it got into Thor getting on the unknown planet. Now it's all bright and colorful. Then we meet Hela and all these, murders 1,000 people. It's great. But then those action scenes are just, where you just see a character like murdering thousands of people like in quick fashion. It felt bland and I didn't like it. But then when we just have a scene where we have Thor and Hulk, it's perfectly filmed, it's perfectly choreographed, it's perfectly executed. It feels real. Like when Thor's punching Hulk, it feels real. And then when the Hulk's punching Thor into the ground, it feels real, and then it's exciting. But then they just keep inserting jokes left and right every 5 seconds, and most of them are funny. I would say the jokes in this movie are 50 and 50. It's split down the middle. Some are funny and work really well. Some just feel forced, and they're just constantly throwing these jokes at you to the point where I'm just like, okay, just stop it, just tone it down a little bit, and your movie will be fine. The beginning of this movie is boring and bland. The middle part of this movie is very interesting, and it's colorful, and it's bright, and it's exciting, and I'm interested in the characters. The ending of this movie, not as good as the middle section, but it's better than the beginning half, and so as a whole entire piece, it's really exciting and entertaining. Liam Hemsworth.
That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name. They call me hell. They call me hell.
Thor, like I said, is my least favorite Avenger. It's strange because, I'm used to Hemsworth in this role, but watching him in this movie, he seemed like he didn't want to be there. Like he was really getting tired of this character. Like some of his scenes really, he didn't deliver a good performance. Like at the beginning, I just felt like, oh, he's just kind of sad and just like, I don't want to be here. I hate this. This sucks. But, once he gets his hair cut and then he goes and, turns into a gladiator and all that, it looks like he's having a little bit of fun, but it's not much of an acceleration as to what I felt from him at the beginning of the film. But I will say, as far as the character goes, Thor was my least favorite, but by the end of this, Thor is now my second favorite Avenger, right underneath the Hulk and only right in front of Iron Man. Tom Hiddleston returns as the man causing mischief, Loki. He's great. Tom Hiddleston is great. Every time we see Tom Hiddleston in this role and in these movies, he kills it. He delivers his performance. He's likable, even though he's a bad guy or he's a good guy. He's like in the middle, 50-50. It's like he's an anti-hero, even though he doesn't want to be. He wants to be a full villain. But there's a scene in here where Thor and Loki are talking, which they're always talking, having conversations. But in this, at the end, what Thor says to Loki at the end really touched me, and I was like, Loki, come on, man. I love you so much. You gotta turn your life around, dude. Mark Ruffalo returns as my number one guy, the Hulk, and Bruce Banner. and I like him too. He's a brainy nerd like me, but I'm not brainy. I'm just a nerd. But whatever. Mark Ruffalo, he's great as the Hulk. Mark Ruffalo crushes it, kills it. He owns this role. It's interesting that with this Hulk character, I don't know if Mark Ruffalo did motion capturing or anything like that, but I know that they used his voice and they kind of like fixed it in After Effects, and his voice sounds like Mark Ruffalo's, but then it also sounds a little deeper, like a monster, so that's great. And I like that Hulk can speak full, complete sentences in here. This is a different Hulk that we get in this movie. We haven't seen the Hulk like this in a Marvel movie like ever. I mean, in Avengers, you know, he said like one line, and now in this he's like actually speaking complete sentences, which was very interesting, and they made it work, and they still kept the character the way he is. So the Hulk is still the Hulk, but he's just evolved a little bit, which I really liked. This actress did win me off at first. However, when I first saw her in her introduction scene, I was just like, oh, really? And it was kind of funny, but then this movie keeps inserting jokes left and right. But when I first saw her, I was like, okay, it is kind of funny, but really, why does she have to act like that? And then her character immediately switched things around, and she turned into a badass. In one scene, my emotions quickly went to off to on in a microsecond. But then as her character progressed throughout the film, she just kind of seemed boring to me and just like plain. And it's like, yeah, she gets a backstory and I understood it, but it's just like she's just there, and I was like, okay, you were cool at first, now it's just like you're just here. Jeff Goldblum, I am Jeff Goldblum, and yes, you know, I can't do it, but Jeff Goldblum's Jeff Goldblum. He's Jeff Goldblum in makeup. He looks cool. His character's great. His character's funny. Like Jeff Goldblum in this movie. Karl Urban is here, and his character was the weakest link here. His character's progression in the movie was predictable. The Rock Monster is cool. He's one of my favorite characters. He doesn't do much here, but he has a cool voice, and I think that's why I like him so much. He's funny, the funniest character in this movie. Cate Blanchett plays Hela, and it's funny because as I was watching her performance in this movie, the character looks cool. She really seemed tired in this movie. Like she has bags under her eyes. Maybe it's just how her character is portrayed, and her character, you know, people have different emotions and people feel different ways, and everyone is their own person. But in this character just seemed tired all the time. And the way Cate Blanchett was delivering her lines, she just seemed like, I'm really tired. I am Hela, and I'm going to kill everyone. But I am so tired. It's just like, her performance was good, but it just was I don't know, she just seemed like kind of bad to me most of the time. The movie seemed like it tried to force how badass she was, like, oh, I'm gonna kill a quadruple men in one move, and it's just like, okay, but it's not filmed in a unique way. It's just like quick cutting and close-ups and a pretty dull looking CGI, and it's just flashes here and flashes there, and it's like, yeah, okay, I believe that she's a badass, but the way they kind of did it, it didn't feel natural to me. I did like her villain though, but I felt like they should have just given her some more stuff to work with. Taika Waititi is an independent film director who has made some really funny, impressive movies. I like his filmography so far. I really didn't like this movie all that much. I thought it was okay. And, you know, Sam Neill was great. What We Do in the Shadows was fantastic, though. I really enjoyed that one. With this, I would say this is his second best movie. I still prefer What We Do in the Shadows above this. But it's very interesting because Taika Waititi made the best Thor movie, which is amazing. It's crazy because I don't like the previous two Thor movies. Thor is my least favorite character, and in this, Taika Waititi makes me like Thor, which is strange. But I will say this to Taika Waititi. You do not know how to film action scenes because he gets in too close with the camera, and maybe it was the script or what Marvel wanted or whatever, I don't know. There's too many scenes of just like a bunch of shit on screen, a bunch of CGI effects, just too many, just like two characters taking on a gazillion like enemies and just killing them all with like one move or a bunch of moves. And it's like, this is a superhero movie, I know, but it's kind of impossible for them to do that. But it's like, not only that, they're just filmed in a way to where it's just like bland. Like, it didn't excite me. Like, seeing Hela take out all those guys, yes, it illustrates that she's a badass, which is great, but it feels forced because it's just like, ooh, one move, I kill all these guys. And the way it's shot didn't excite me, so it just kind of like I didn't feel any emotion toward it that much. Then you got Thor and then the girl doing something, and they're fighting a bunch of enemies, and all this, stuff explodes, and I'm just like, it's just too much, man. I don't care. I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. It's the best Thor movie. And that's strange because usually when we look at trilogies, the first one is always the best because it kicks off everything. And then the sequel's usually better than the first one, or it's worse, or it's in the middle. And the third one's kind of like the worst, or it's just as good as the sequel, but not as good as the first one, or it completely sucks. With Thor, it's a weird case of like, for me, the first one is garbage, the second one is better than the first one, but it's still garbage, and then the third one takes over the previous two. This is the best Thor movie. I enjoyed this movie. Tycho RTD did a fantastic job with this. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. If you love Marvel movies, you definitely will probably like this one like I did. I would give Thor Ragnarok, the third Thor installment, an A-. I give it an A-. It did its job. I had fun with it. Like I said, the beginning part of this was really boring and bland, didn't like it. The middle section, once we get Thor and Hulk fighting each other, was exciting, and it elevated the movie with bright colors and great action scenes with just the two of them. Then the ending was fine and serviceable, but it didn't really compare to the second half, but it was better than the beginning part. And by the end of this movie, it made me a Thor fan, and I'm glad that Thor doesn't have his silly weapon, because I always thought he was a weak character, because, all he can use is the stupid hammer, man, he sucks. But now, he's free, and he's powerful, and he's badass, and I liked him by the end of this movie, so now he's my second favorite Avenger. So Taika Waititi, Marvel did its job to make Thor likable, for me at least. And I like Taika Waititi's directing in this for the most part, except for like the bloated action scenes where villains or heroes fight a dozen enemies, and it's just bland and kind of boring. I like it when it's just like two characters together fighting. Those fighting scenes were great. But I like this movie. I liked it. It had great colors in here, great performances from the actors, even some, like, I would say the story is pretty like coincidental, or how everyone just meets each other, how it all plays out, and then by the end of it, it's all like, okay. But it was entertaining. I enjoyed the ride getting there. I liked the journey, and it's a great closing chapter for the Thor series, if this is, I think it is, trilogies. It's fun. I liked it. It was great, and Thor's my second favorite Avenger now, but Hulk's still my number one guy. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time!
Thor like water,
Well, kind of both like fire.
but Hulk like raging fire. Thor like smoldering fire.